Tuesday night, KHOP88, not live on the air. We're having technical difficulties. So we're just joining you on YouTube. I'm in southern Wisconsin, south central Wisconsin, we call it here. Marnie Glickman is joining us from Northern California.
You betcha.
Freshly out of the COVID testing line. And joining us from snowy suburban Minnesota is Jessica Warren. Jessica, where are you in Minnesota right now?
Well, thanks, Jason. I'm calling from Blaine, Minnesota, which is in Anoka, one of the 5 largest metro area counties in Minnesota.
As we just covered, yes. Red, White, and Blaine. You remember it from Waiting for Guffman?
No.
You've never seen the movie Waiting for Guffman?
Yes, but I don't remember that line.
I think that's the town that they're in is Blaine, and so the production is Red, White, and Blaine. I believe funny. That's it.
That's interesting you say that, Blaine trivia, because I was going to ask, what is Blaine? Is it small town? Is it a suburb?
Yeah, so we're right off the 35W. So you hop on 35 to go downtown for restaurants, entertainment, plays, whatever, about 25 minutes. So my husband commutes into the city for work every day at the Park and Ride. And if we want to go out downtown, that's easy to do. Blaine was like nothing when we were growing up as far as developed. It was cornfields, farms, that kind of thing. And in the last 15 years, it's been really built up. And so it has like the really nice Starbucks with the Clover feature and the Nitro brew, because everything's newer. And it's a lot of single family homes, definitely suburban bedroom community. And it tends to be more conservative community. So yeah.
But it's similar to Minnetonka, right? In the way it sort of looks and is that where did you grow up? Where were you a kid?
I was in Hopkins proper.
Okay.
Yes.
I was going to get to this later, but my first memory of you, Jessica, I believe, was that because you were sort of in the smart kid gang, and like it seems like I was in a summer school class with you. Does this sound familiar?
Was it acting?
Yeah, I bet it was acting. And like
David Green there?
Yes, I think so.
And yes. Amber Sen, and he was obsessed with Amber Sen.
Yeah, I mean, many
Who
of us
wasn't?
were.
She was adorable.
Yeah. But the funny thing about like Hopkins School District summer school was that they had like all this enrichment, like you could take driver's ed there, you could do this enrichment stuff, or you could do your remedial stuff. And I would get on the bus with kids from my part of the world who had to go to summer school. And I went to summer school because my mom signed me up to take like acting classes or whatever. Yeah. And they would be like, why are you going to summer school? Like, you don't have to go. I'm like, yeah, it's fun. Right? You remember this? And it was at the high school, Lindbergh.
Yeah.
At the time.
Yes. I did not realize that we were together there, though.
Yeah.
So funny.
I remember Charlie Giostra as well, and maybe Mark Mengi. Yeah. But this would have been in like 5th or 6th grade, I think.
Yeah.
Did you go to elementary school together?
No.
Where did you go, Jessica?
I was in Alice Smither with Steve Simon.
Gotcha. Okay. Yeah, Alice Smith. All right. Yeah, I think I'm going to just say this because Marnie is an expert on naming controversies in school districts, but there were multiple schools in our district named after women. Catherine Curran, Alice Smith. I don't know if there were others. I doubt Tanglin was named after some woman, but
Stephanie Tanglin, sure.
Right.
Well, yeah, that's interesting. Both of you, I don't know if you're aware of this. In some cities, like New York City, they don't even try to name the schools. They're just like, we'll assign you numbers.
Yeah.
So it's a little calmer way of doing it.
Yeah, because it turns out like historical figures often did something that was jerk-like. Yeah.
Where are we finding that out in Minnesota with the renaming of Lake Calhoun? It's now,
yeah.
I'll tell my friends, we went to Bede-Makaska, and they were like, where did you go? I'm like,
oh,
Bede-Makaska. That's what it's called.
Congratulations on saying that in a way I've not heard before. But
I've
that's
been
great.
practicing. It's capital BDE, new letter, MAK, new letter, and then SKA, because that means sky. That's the way I remember it.
Dame McCosker.
Mm-hmm.
And
it's
there's
Calhoun
controversy.
Square.
People are like not going along with it. They're like, I'm calling it Calhoun forever. I'm not gonna.
What'd you say?
There are people who
Oh.
refuse to even acknowledge the new name. They're like, it's
I'm
Calhoun.
sure. Yeah. And you know, they pulled down the statue of Columbus at the state capitol, and I guess
Yeah.
that's not going to go back up.
That seems fine to me.
That seems to me as well.
The one statue that I remember from my youth in the Twin Cities was when you went down to the Minnehaha Falls. There were statues of, I believe, Hiawatha, who was, you know, like an Indian chief or warrior of some sort, like very brave, you know, and maybe Minnehaha, who was maybe a woman. And that still impressed upon me. Like that was a very cool statue. And
Yeah.
now I think back and wonder, okay, is that appropriation? Like, were these actual people?
Right.
Or are they made up for, you know, our comfort? What's the story there? I don't know.
Yeah, I don't know. Be interesting to dig into that.
Well, I mean, I think part of the renaming is, you know, us now just asking those questions of those memories and learning more. We had an interesting statue situation here where there was a gigantic, maybe 50-foot statue off a road of a guy who we now know was a slave trader, but it was it's a giant modern statue, and so they contacted the artist, and the artist is like, I had no idea he was a slave trader. Let's just rename the statue. Which was a really interesting way. He didn't care. I mean, it was so modern that it didn't matter to him as the artist.
Cool.
And we're not like identifying with the statue as the slave trader.
Yeah.
So there's a lot of different angles at all of this.
Yeah.
That is. And it's kind of too bad in a way, though, that I'm okay with getting rid of all the statutes of people that were slave trainers and enslaved indigenous people and raped and pillaged. But it is interesting that we maybe as a society or as a culture expect people that we consider to be accomplished to have only good layers and not maybe expect that, you know, this person is flawed in many ways and still did do great things.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. Statues are just problematic. We're just learning more and more that they're just, it's sort of a thing. So Jessica is a prosecutor.
Mm-hmm.
Not a prosecutor. There's two different things.
Okay. So tell me what you do and why it's different or what it is.
Well, I was just kidding, because prostitute is not what I am.
What did I say?
You said prosecutor.
Right. I said I'm not a prostituter. I am a prosecutor, but you said it right. I was just having
Okay,
fun.
thank you.
So yeah, some get it wrong, you know.
Prosecutor, but now you've worked on that side of the law since law school, essentially. Tell us about your career path.
Yeah, so I went to undergrad at the U of M, undergrad with Mike Mitchell and gosh, who else did I see around there from back in the day? No, that's Mike Mitchell. There was two Mike Mitchells, right?
Yeah, our buddy Mike Mitchell.
Yes, yeah.
Not the flat top Mike Mitchell.
Right. So I went to the U, and I actually took classes from Adam Samaha's dad, who was an awesome professor of sociology. And he was a really cool figure and kind of intimidating when he'd, you know, sit in his class and say the words that were all magic, because he's so smart. And I went up to talk to him after class one day, and he said, I remember you from the house. And I was like so proud. He remembers me. But he got me started on doing an externship where I went to the public defender's office, and I read a book that a gentleman who had a career in the DC public defender's office had written about defense work. And I just fell in love with that, honestly. I thought it was super important work, and I learned a bunch. And so during law school, I got a job clerking at the Hennepin County Public Defender's Office. And of course, that's the biggest county there is in the state. And I started out as an investigator, and then I switched to a law clerk. And I wrote memos for the court on search and seizure, other Fourth Amendment issues, confessions, things like that. And then after law school, I didn't get a job there. I applied, but there just wasn't the opening. So I clerked for a judge in Hennepin County, a female judge named Burl Nord. And she was very intelligent and suffered no fools. She's very hard on people, and she was very smart. And that was a great experience. And then I became a Minneapolis prosecutor. So I started off prosecuting misdemeanors, gross misdemeanor, DWIs, thefts, domestic assaults, but also your HOV lane violations, which are frustrating when you see people cutting in line.
Oh, wait, what? Okay. Like HOV stands for?
High occupancy vehicle.
Oh, so the sane lane.
The cheater.
Yeah. And so you went after the people who were in the sane lane when they.
I did.
I have a side note. I want to ask you
Yes.
something. Here in California, I know this guy who intentionally wanted to get caught in our HOV lane with a corporate charter. So he went by himself in the HOV lane. He got arrested. He said, "Oh no, I qualify because this corporation's a person." You've never heard of this guy?
Sure.
Okay, just so you know. Anyhow, I know that
Bingo.
guy. You didn't prosecute anyone with a corporate charter.
Well, was he acquitted? Did he beat the rap? What happened?
Yes, he beat the rap. It was a stunt. He got a New York Times story, and
Oh, okay.
Nice.
known as like the carpool lane guy.
Okay. Yeah, I've had people that had lifelike dummies
Mhm.
next to them.
Really?
Yeah.
Yeah. And then others, speeding, whatever trials where you'd have 15 people there that were contesting their tickets, and you'd have 15 officers, and just one after the next, just trial after trial after trial. And it was kind of fun. Good way to really cut my teeth. I became head of the graffiti prosecution unit,
Oh,
which was a big thing.
yeah.
Yeah, at one point. And I also was in charge of prosecuting the 100 most prolific misdemeanors. We called them top offenders, and that was based on arrests and convictions and affecting the quality of life in Minneapolis. So I did that for 11 years, and then I was hired by the Anoka County Attorney's Office, where now I do all felonies. And so I do everything from homicide to criminal sexual conduct. I am very active in the drug treatment court, felony WIs, kind of do everything now as prosecution. But I would have loved to have defended. I think that was a lot of fun. I think defense attorneys are fantastic and super important. And I really loved helping people as a defense attorney. But I also appreciate the fact that as a prosecutor, as a defense attorney, you can say, well, I think this was really bad what happened to him or her, and the police overstepped their bounds, and this evidence was unlawfully obtained, and I think they're innocent. But as a prosecutor, I can say, yeah, you're right. I'm not going to issue that case. I'm not going to bring that charge. I'm going to dismiss that charge. So having that ability to really be a vanguard for people's rights is exciting for me. But I could easily be a defense attorney too. I think that's a lot of fun.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
So how often do you participate in a trial that like would sort of fit the bill of like a trial that we would know for, that we would see on TV, like a multiple day felony calling several witnesses, cross-examining, that kind of trial? How often does that happen in your job?
Not as often as you would think. And I'm grateful for that, because the system would grind to a halt if every case went that far. I want to say 98% are negotiated. The resolutions are negotiated. Right now I have, I'm resolving a case where 20-year-old had sex with 2 different 15-year-olds. And we're not going to go to trial on both cases. That's just not going to happen. So we're resolving this. We're just in plea negotiations on that now. But I would say what you're thinking about, a stereotypical trial, probably 4 times a year.
Okay.
Since the pandemic, I've been in court every day. I'm in court all the time, from right here in my dining room, appearing virtually in court all the time. But we haven't started having live in-person trials yet, but I'm told that every week we're that much nearer to one, that we are going to have one, and we're going to socially distance all the jurors, and you're going to wear masks, and it's going to suck. But yeah, I have a case coming up where there are 2 deaf people that were signing each other in a car. I don't know what this is. Apparently I'm signing. And they were in their 60s on the way to a medical appointment, and a guy in the car next to them apparently thought they were throwing gang signs at him, these 60-year-old men and women. And so he pulled a gun on them. And he adamantly swears he didn't pull a gun on them, despite the fact that they found a gun in his car, the exact gun they described. The man has had his legs amputated, and his health has really declined, and he doesn't want to come to court. And we'll have to have sign language interpreters and masks. And so I'm really hoping we resolve that one, but what a mess, huh?
Well, it's interesting. I'm working for legal aid. We do intake clinics outside on picnic tables with full masks and gloves and social distancing. But in the end, there's still like papers that have to go back and forth. So it's all imperfect. I'm going to a new intake session on Friday, but the fact that we continue to administer justice and seek justice no matter what is, a testament to lawyers like you.
Well, yeah, and you. Yeah, it's just, I've told some victims, if you want to hold out for a trial, I'm with you. I'll stay, we'll hang on to this offer. I'll say no deals, no deals, no deals. But if you want to put this behind you, if you need closure, then we're going to have to give up prison. We're going to have to say probation. And so that can be a tough call, one that I really rely on the victim to tell me what they want, because I'm there either way. I want to make it work for them because they were the crime victim. And so, those are some tough conversations, but I have to be realistic with them, because when trials do start going back up again, it's going to be people that are in custody that'll go first. It's going to be the crimes of violence that go first, as well it should be. So a case in particular I was thinking about, a woman was driving under the influence of meth and in a Target parking lot struck a 3-year-old little boy. And the paramedics arrived, and I saw it on video because Target has such good video. And I was watching it from home one Sunday, and I was like, oh my God, watch this video. You see this car just careen out of nowhere. She just lost control and ran him over. And he had a punctured lung. He had a fractured mandibular, jaw. Yeah. All sorts of horrible injuries. And the paramedics thought it was called a scoop and run, where they think it's a dead body, basically. You just transfer it. Yeah. And she was 20 weeks pregnant, the mom was, as she watched this happen, and she had to wipe tire marks off of Roman, that's his little boy's name, his face. And he's almost 100% recovered now. And it happened last August. And I said, do we want to hold out? I'll hold out with you. I'll hold the line, whatever, but it's going to be a year, realistically. And I can't promise you then that the judge will send her to prison.
Yeah.
So we negotiated, made a deal, and there was no prison. And it was a beautiful sentencing because, honestly, the defendant asked for forgiveness and expressed such remorse and said she thought about him every day, the little boy. And the mom said, I forgive you. You know, I'll forgive you for what happened. And it was a really beautiful sentencing. But yeah, times are weird.
Yeah, that's that whole aspect to me of criminal justice of what do they call it? I mean, it's primarily used in drug court now or among, you know, youth, where they put them through a different process where they sit and in a group and attempt to make amends and have a connection with the victim. I forget what they call that,
We
but
call
that
it
is
restorative justice.
restorative justice. That's new-ish still, you know, that's, but many people think that's a more effective way than imprisonment, so than incarceration for sure.
Well, I've learned about a program which I thought was interesting, is we have a community court here, where we allow people who have like lifestyle ticket, like civil infractions, to get sentenced to community service. So it's happening in Zoom, but in the pandemic, it's really hard to complete community service.
Yeah.
Oh, wow.
So true.
Yeah.
It's a different thing. Okay, so Jessica, when did you were you surprised you became a lawyer? Did you have some like Hopkins High different fantasy?
I mean, yeah, I was friends with the smart kids, but I was hanging out by my fingertips. I mean, I was not behind the higher echelons. Like, I don't know, I was there for I don't know what, the donuts, because I didn't have a clue. I feel like looking back in high school, I felt like I was so immature. And boy, if you could do it over again, you know, wouldn't you do things differently? But
What would you do differently?
well, the number one thing I would do is I had a best friend, and I was with her all the time. And whereas I loved that, and it was kind of a security blanket to me, it meant that I didn't really get to know a lot of other people around me, as well as looking back, I wish I would have. So I missed out on developing a whole bunch of other relationships that I know I easily could have and would have, but I had the kind of the safety cocoon. And so I didn't do that. And later in life, that skill of being able to get to know a whole bunch of other people and get into different groups was something I had to build, and something that I really enjoy doing. I like going from group to group to group to group and not being just kind of tied down, except for to my husband, of course. But you know, socially, I like to be able to just kind of go and be friends with all the different types of people, not just, yeah. So that would be something I would do differently.
So in addition to being a prosecutor, you're also a yoga instructor.
Yes.
So my question about that is, did your job, like, I mean, so the stereotype of a prosecutor, right, is you're sort of a tough talker, you're hanging around cops all the time and criminals, you know, it's not the most namaste sort of daily existence. So were you looking for balance in your life, or tell us how you became a yoga instructor?
Yes, how I found yoga.
Yeah.
Yeah, so I wasn't, also in high school, in addition to not being particularly well-rounded socially, I was not very athletic. I didn't ever really have a sport I loved. I dabbled in this and that, mostly just to hang out with other people. And as you know, you age and your body and the warranty's off, I was really looking for something that I could do to stay healthy. And when I was 40, I went to Hazelden Betty Ford. I thought it was a golf course. Turns out it was treatment, because I was an alcoholic, still am. And after I got sober at Hazelden, that became very important to me, to find kind of an outlet, a coping mechanism, a way to handle all those potholes of life that maybe I turned to alcohol or food or whatever we turn to for comfort, right? And so since alcohol was no longer what I wanted to do, and I didn't want to eat all my feelings, a couple girlfriends took me to Core Power Yoga, which is a heated yoga place. And like a really good addict, as soon as I tried it, I just loved it and went like every day for a year. And then I decided to take the teacher training. And so I started instructing at a couple different Core Power Yogas. And then I thought, if a little bit is good, more is always better, right? So on my lunch hours at work, we had an activity room in the basement with mirrors. And I would teach yoga there. And I just charge people $6 a class or whatever. And 3 times a week they come and do yoga. And it was a great way where I'd walk in and I didn't even want to teach. I didn't even want to be there, but they expect the teacher to show up. But I would show up kind of grumpy, and boy, within 5 minutes, I'd, be smiling and happy. And so it just really served me well, my practice. So I'm really grateful for that.
Thank you so much for sharing all of that. So how do you practice yoga now in the pandemic?
Well, because I know how to do a class, I can roll up, unfurl my mat anytime.
Yeah.
So does that mean I do? No, but I could. I will sometimes take classes with on Facebook Live from fellow teacher friends that are hosting classes. But now instead of doing so much yoga right now, I just started going back to my gym in the mornings where people wear masks and go to their areas. So, but you can easily do any kind of online stuff with yoga.
Yeah, that's how I do it.
Yeah.
Do you practice yoga, Jason?
It would be not a good, it's not a proper term to say practice when it comes to how
proper. That is absolutely proper. That is absolutely.
But yeah, I watch Tim, Yoga Tim, and I do yoga with Tim.
Well, and part of why it's so attractive to people in recovery is because it is a practice.
Yeah,
there is no perfection. You never stick the landing. It's just one day you might fly a crow, the next day you fall out, and it's all about just getting back up. And it's always perfect. Wherever your body is exactly where it's supposed to be that day.
Yeah. Yeah, I started going to a hippie place here in Madison many years ago with my wife, and it was like a very old school yoga practice and facility. And I was so bummed when it closed, and so I gave it up for years until just a few months ago when I'm like, I really need to do something to work just for flexibility and just feeling better, and so it's been nice for sure. I wonder how many people have actually taken it up because of how available, like going to a studio is a whole barrier and brings up a lot of anxiety in people. But when you just do it and it's one way, and I don't even do a live thing, I just call up YouTube videos. But
oh, absolutely. Yeah. It's so yoga on demand these days. It's really easy and approachable. When I very, very first started doing it at home, I think I had a Yoga for Dummies DVD that I put in, and my daughter, I think she was 3 at the time. I was standing there on a mat doing all these moves, and she was kind of watching me and watching the video, watching me, and she goes, "Mom, I don't think you know how to do yoga." And I'm like, "No, I don't, but I'm learning." I'm learning.
Well, I practiced yoga a little bit, and I haven't for a while, but the type of yoga I was interested in practicing, I called it lawyer yoga.
Ooh.
Iyengar yoga. Have you ever taken an Iyengar yoga class?
No. What is it? Tell me.
Well, the leader, his name is BKS Iyengar. So it's, I would say, very based in anatomy. And so the instructors use a lot of anatomy, and there's not, they sound a little bit like lawyers. I mean, I'm saying that because I'm a lawyer, and you're like, this is very precise, detailed, straightforward. There's not very much oming. But anyhow, well, I'm just saying my perspective. Yeah, so Iyengar yoga, you should check it out.
I should. Yeah, I didn't ohm in my class either.
Yeah, I don't own, even though I live in California. That's so weird. Okay, so one of my questions I'd like to ask is there something you've been doing in the pandemic that's new and interesting, like a new hobby or a new chore,
Oh,
a new book?
well, maybe this counts. I've always I thought it would be cool to do Audible books on tape.
Yes.
But I'm like, oh, I don't want to pay money for someone to I don't know why I had this block. Like, we have money, but no, never could spend it. But for my 50th birthday, I said to my husband, I want a membership to Audible. He's like, really? Yeah. I want the platinum one where it's like I can get more than one title a month. That's just extravagant. And so we had planned a trip to the Amalfi Coast, I should say, but canceled. Yeah, we're taking the girls
Now you have Audible. Okay.
but instead went with an Audible
Books on
and
tape.
so books on tape. And I've been reading some of those really dry books that you really want to read and be like a good citizen. But I just read The Color of Law, which
it's a
have
great
you read it?
Of course, he's from San Francisco. Oh my God, it's an amazing book.
Yeah.
Well, okay, I have to pause everyone in praise of audiobooks.
Yes.
One of the things I learned is my daughter was diagnosed with dyslexia about like 9 years ago. And I thought to myself, oh my gosh, this is one way she's different than me. Oh my gosh. And then I said, what does this mean? And then, one of the things it means is, embrace the audiobook.
Yeah.
And I love audiobooks more than she does. They are amazing. And Jessica and everyone, you don't even have to use Audible. Like you can also get them free from libraries now.
Yes, that is true. But I will confess that I never could figure that out. I tried many times and for some reason I just could not figure it out. And so I had given up. That's not a very good lesson to my kids. Just give up. But I did. I gave up.
But now you're 50, you have Audible. The Color of Law, I think that was a great pandemic thing. And The Color of Law is a great book.
We learned none of that in high school. None of it. About how the entire property system in the United States was structured to keep people of color from ever having a home, owning a home, passing on wealth. And it was completely set up that way and enabled by our government in a way that just seems horrific to me. Our soldiers coming home from war, needing housing or wanting to anywhere they wanted to live. And just one part of it, I was telling my husband how they, in white neighborhoods, when they wanted to buy up the land, they would pay Black people to drive through and have their car stereos really loud and have Black women push strollers through the white neighborhoods. And then they go door to door to these white residents and say, this neighborhood's turning, you're gonna get about 50 cents on the dollar for what your house is worth, but I'll buy it now from you and save you before it's all taken over. And they'd snap it up at a fraction and then they'd sell it on a contract for deed to people of color for more than it was worth. And if they missed a single payment, they got no equity and they're kicked out. I mean, how is that okay? The whole thing I thought was so fascinating.
So I know you were in our advanced placement history classes and, you think about, we talk a lot about on the show about, our favorite teachers and our most sort of, the moments in high school that really stuck with us and impacted us and everything. But yeah, you do realize, especially now more and more all the time, like, man, that advanced placement American history class was garbage. It was. We learned nothing about Native Americans, essentially, nothing. And what we learned about the slave trade and the Civil War was so, it's told from this perspective of, I mean, it's just again, as you just put it perfectly, everything we learned in high school, like we didn't learn any of of reality really. And I mean, not even what I think is interesting is we learn nothing about the place that we lived in. We learn
Right.
nothing about the suburbs of Minneapolis or Minnesota
Yeah.
really at all, and the problems that go along with that.
Yeah, and recently, I'm on the board of directors for some victim group, Minnesota Alliance on Crime, and it's for crime victims. And so that is like a group that I'm a part of that's very different from prosecutors, and they're a lot more inclusive, and I just use the word liberal, right? Like
Yeah.
when we go around the room, we say the pronouns that we prefer. And we don't do that in my office, but we do in this group. And when we start a meeting, there's an acknowledgement that we are on stolen land.
Yes.
And what? I mean, why?
Yeah.
We are living in Minnetonka, Minnesota. It's all these Indian names, and we learn nothing about where we all were. And I think that's really sad.
Well, I think that issue still exists in curriculum in our schools across the country. And that's, you know, an issue for elected officials, but also parents and other groups. It's a continual process. But I wanted to say one of the books I read recently, which is about where we were from. So when I was growing up, I was a little bit obsessed with Little House on the Prairie.
Yes. Yeah. Who wasn't?
And Laura Elder. Well, there is a new award-winning biography of her.
Laura Ingalls Wilder.
And you should look it up on Audible. I'm just bringing this up since you like Color of Law. Yeah. And it debunks all the myths of Laura Ingalls Wilder.
Oh.
And talks about the real history that was going on from her birth. And she lived a very long time until she died. You should check it out.
Oh, I think I'd like that. Yeah.
It's pretty sad. It made me a little sad, but it's a great biography.
Yeah, it's without going too far down this path, I mean, we were all just taught to, you know, sort of celebrate the settlers and, you know, who Harley Hopkins, right? And you just realize like what a scam that was. Like people lived there before freaking Harley Hopkins came along. He didn't discover, none of these people discovered anything. It's just the narrative is pretty amazing. I just think to even just puncture through all of the, you know, taking responsibility for the horrific crimes that were committed, it's just denying us the full story of, you know, an accurate account, and even, you know, just understanding like even as basic as like, oh, I-94, you know, that like Native Americans used that as a trail like many centuries before. I mean, the geography, the layout of the whole area is based on what Native Americans did many centuries earlier. Like they just skipped ahead on all that stuff.
And we all became good products of what we were fed, the information we were fed. And unless you stepped out of that, and I'm sure you've seen the movie 13th, where, I mean, it just like, it made me angry how we were indoctrinated to fear people of color and how they're portrayed in any kind of media, or just everything that was taught to us. When you look at people now that maybe didn't separate from that and try to question it, how can you blame them? If they never stepped out of that, they took what they were given them, they absorbed it, and they're proud to be an American. I'm very proud to be an American. And I'm very law and order, obviously, but I still know there's more to the story.
Right.
And learning that has been wonderful. And I know, I'm sure you guys have a lot of conversations with your kids. I do as well. My daughter, my 16-year-old, who is brilliant, her greatest surprise about her mom was that I was in AP US history.
Oh.
That she couldn't believe I could be in that hard of a class. I'm like, yeah. She's like, that's a really hard class, Mom. I'm like, yeah, I know. I'm not saying I aced it, but I was there. Chapter 15, Manifest Destiny.
Yeah.
Right.
Yeah.
Holy smokes.
Yeah.
Yeah, I think Abalon might have had a different time with today's teenagers. He might have gotten a little bit of pushback on some of that stuff, and we would have been derailed slightly from the preparation for the exam, you know.
Yes. Oh my gosh. He was great. Did you guys go to his funeral? It was a while ago.
No, did you go?
Oh,
Yeah, I did go.
What's
I
that
think,
like?
yeah, it was huge. Everyone was there. Lots of people from the school. I want to say he was like 52.
whoa.
I know, awful close to home, isn't that? He was
Yeah.
he was very young. He had not been feeling well and had a stress test one day, and he did fine on the stress test. And then the next day, he had a massive cardiac arrest. And I met his daughter and his wife, and Steve Simon was there, Lori Robinson, my bestie,
Yeah.
there. And yeah, it was really somber. He was an amazing man.
I do remember that you and Lori provided some comic relief in that class from time to time.
Too much. I mean,
Really too much.
it's too much. Yeah.
What do you mean? All my memories are like looking at the backs of people's heads and like thinking about everything I have to memorize.
Yeah, I never did great. I mean, I didn't get A's in those classes. And so I was interested in the people who were there to laugh every once in a while.
Yeah, I think right in front of me was Bill Hobbs or Steve Simon, and then right in front of Loretta was Bill Hobbs or Steve Simon. And yeah, we messed around a lot, and I wish I would have paid more attention.
Yeah. He would blow his stack every once in a while when it was clear that we just weren't really present. And that was good preparation, I thought, for college.
I remember when we had some quiz question or something at the end of the year, and the question was, what was the first language the Bible was written in? And someone answered the vernacular. I still laugh about that.
Yeah, smart ass kids. What the hell?
Yeah. Oh man. Yeah. Good times though.
Yeah. Marnie, do you have any other questions for our guest here?
Well, that's interesting. I've enjoyed our conversation so much. And as usual, I wish that we could like go out and have some pizza together or something like that and keep talking. And I hope we can someday.
Yeah.
Is there anything else you want to share with, we're recording this. We are so grateful you're here. We're grateful to hear about your life now. Is there anything else you want to say or ask us?
Well, thank you for having me. I'm sure when my husband, the only viewer, watches this later, he might have some comments, but it's interesting to think of how much I am different from the person I was then, but still that person is inside of me somewhere and helped shape me. I suppose if anyone ever wants to talk about recovery, I'm always open to talking about that. I sponsor women in the program. I'm very active in NA and AA, and I support recovery 100%.
How does that work? Like if you're saying that to the internet, does someone just call you?
They would Facebook me, like Facebook Messenger, PM me. Okay. And if they're struggling, or if they just want to talk, or if they just want to tell someone, that they're worried they have a problem, and that kind of thing, go from there, whatever their comfort level is. I wouldn't share that information with anyone. It would just be for us, and it doesn't mean they have to quit drinking that night. Just that's how it started for me. I reached out to someone from law school saying, I'm really worried about how much I'm drinking, and I really don't think I can stop. And kind of every day at work, I tell myself, I'm not going to drink tonight. And sometimes I would write it down, because I read somewhere that if you write it down, it'll come true or something. And so I write it down, I'm not going to drink tonight. And then I would. And, it's been there. I'm 10 years sober this Christmas. And
that's really generous of you, Jessica. That's great. Thank you.
Absolutely. Yeah. It's helps me more than it helps them. No one ever believes that until you're on the other side. And then you realize that it helps me stay sober by helping others. That's how it works. The first word or the first step is we, because I can't, but we can. So yeah.
Thank you.
Yeah, thank you.
Thanks everyone.
Marnie, we have Mel Jacobson and Doug Robertson next week.
Oh, yes, we do. We have some good shows coming up. I'm afraid to look because I don't want to get disconnected.
I'm going to look. We have Election Night Spectacular. We'll see how that is. That's just going to be you and me.
Yes, because emotionally, I think it's just going to be you and me talking about our feelings, looking back on the year ahead for 2021.
You may get a charge out of this. I was just contacted this morning by a producer from London Broadcasting Company, the LBC.
Yes.
He wants me to appear on his show from Wisconsin to explain Wisconsin in an election year. So
On election night?
on election night at some point. Yeah. So
Okay.
we might have to.
Yeah, so we're on election night. Rick Marker is coming on, and we have some other great shows booked, and we're going to keep going into the new year.
Absolutely. We're charging into 2021. We're going to get through this pandemic together.
Together.
Sure.
Mm-hmm. Cool.
Thank you, Jessica. It was great to see you and great to talk to you. And, good luck shoveling your driveway tonight.
Wait. I do have a question. Is it really snowing?
Oh my gosh, terrible.
You missed
Cars
this.
are in ditches. Yeah.
It's like
multiple inches.
I'm sweating because it's hot. Tell me,
Winter travel advisory until midnight tonight. We took a trip to Starbucks at about 5 with the kids, and there was cars and ditches everywhere.
Oh my God. See,
and then my husband was like showing off with some fancy moves and went sideways in the driveway and almost hit my daughter's car. It's like, great.
That's great.
Do that now.
Stay warm. I usually say stay safe. Yeah. Stay warm, everyone.
The
challenges are just mounting.
Yeah.
All right, you guys.
Good night. See you next time, everyone. Bye.
Good to talk to both of you. Bye.
Bye.